Good morning. I welcome you to this presentation, and I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to present here. So my topic is, I'm Professor Shaukutara Shakur, and I'm working at National Institute of Ophthalmology, Dhaka, and I am an ocular oncologist and orbit and oculoplastic surgeon. So I will share with my experience of ptosis, how I manage. So these are the ptosis cases, and we all know that for management of ptosis, we have to have a precise history and evaluation, some investigations, relevant investigations, and documentation is very important in case of ptosis. And about the treatment, there are some non-surgical treatment, that is rehabilitative crutch for ptosis, and surgery. And in children, we have to have, after surgery, do refraction and treatment of amblyopia if there is amblyopia. And as we will be talking about the management, so we know there are some factors that would modify our approach to or timing of ptosis repair. And those are, if there is amblyopia in children, we have to do it as early as possible. And if there is previous history of ptosis operations, we have to do it with caution. There are some risk factors of corneal exposure. For that, we have to take this decision that not to expose the pupillary axis too much. And patient general health concerns, sometimes they're not fit for ptosis, then we have to opt for the crutches, not the surgery. Patient preference, sometimes we have to take in account that also. And we need a workup, and we all know this workup, so I'm not going in details about that. These are the workups we need to do before we plan for surgery. And ptosis crutches, when we use it, when the child is very small and the parents, they don't want to take up the surgery, and in CPO or myasthenia gravis, sometimes they prefer to have crutches. And old patients who are not, who don't want to have the surgery and who are not fit for surgery also. So there are surgery, mainly the three surgeries are for ptosis, this fascicular servate surgery, conjunctivomolar and LPS resection and transfrontalis sling or frontalis brow suspension. This is the surgery for fascicular servate. We always do it for mild ptosis up to 2 millimeter with good LPS function. But the sad thing is that these mild patients, they don't come to us when the ptosis is very mild, and even when they come, they don't want to have the surgery. So we get very less chance to do this, in my practice, to do fascicular servate procedure. But it could do 1 millimeter ptosis could be corrected by 2 millimeter tarsectomy. So I really didn't do much fascicular servate because of the patient. But LPS resection, it is for any ptosis with LPS function more than 5 millimeter, we perform LPS resection. And there is a short video of LPS resection. It's not a very good video because of limitation in my hospital. So first, the traction suture are placed, and then we have to do the skin incision. Then orbicularis. Tarsal plate is exposed. Then LPS aponeurosis is inserted, and you can see the LPS muscle. I always follow, like, uh, I always go with book. So the surgeries are not very anything modified, as given in the book, and what our mentors have shown us. So once the orbicular LPS muscle is identified, we have to take a bite from in the tarsal plate, and then we tie it with the LPS muscle with a two-ended vicryl, 60 vicryl. I'm bringing out the suture in the LPS muscle. After this, we have to tie it. This time, three sutures are taken from one from the middle and two in the lateral, medial and lateral part of the tarsus, and then it is tied with the muscle. And okay, this is the surgery. It is before operation and after operation. You can see that there is a dynamic lead crease is formed, and this is nice as compared with the normal eye. This is also another picture of the post-operative picture of the LPS resection. So we follow the Beard's guideline for LPS resection, and also levator function technique, and that is proposed by Burke, and MRD technique. So transfrontalis brow suspension, we do it for any ptosis with poor LPS function, and this is easy procedure to do. And here is a small video also. We have to do the marking on the lead, and this. The thing is silicone rod is most preferred thing nowadays, but I don't do with fascia lata because of the cumbersome procedure to harvest it, and I found that the procedure with fascia lata, and I use Prolene because that is more available in my country, and I didn't find any complications, and we didn't have to do any revision surgery with Prolene. So as my outcome is good with Prolene, though it is, some people say that it is not good, but in my experience, Prolene is as good as any other material, and silicone is not available in our country. It is very expensive, and in most of my cases in my government setup, the patients are very poor. They can't afford to buy this silicone material rod, so I prefer to do it with Prolene, and with very good outcome, and thank God by now no revision surgery is needed, only one, yes. So this is because you all use different materials, it is Prolene you don't use, I know that. The one technique is, I will tell here, to make a pocket in the superior incision so that I bury the knot there, and there is no granuloma also, granuloma formation. But earlier I used to do with Ethibond. But with Ethibond, there is, my experience, granuloma formation and inflammation was more. There was very much inflammation, so I shifted it to Prolene. In Prolene, when we have to put many knots, LV is 9 to 13, so that it do not slip, and then it gives you more suture, Prolene, when you need to do a revision surgery if needed. So it gives a safety measurement to have. This is, you see, the outcome now. And this is the procedure, some picture of congenital ptosis with TFS, with Prolene. And for CPO, it's a challenge because there is no ocular motility, so we have to just keep the pupillary axis open. This is a case of Marcus-Gunn jaw winking phenomena. Here we can see that it's a challenge, Marcus-Gunn jaw winking phenomena, that the movement of the ptotic eye with movement of the jaw. And then what we do is LPS disinsertion, LPS excision, and then TFS. But dilemma is what to do, unilateral or bilateral. Most of it is written in, everywhere that to do bilateral surgery, and that gives a good cosmetic outcome. But the patients, they don't agree to do, because they say that I don't have any problem in my other eye. Why do you do the surgery in other eye? So we have to do mostly unilateral Marcus surgery, and it's patient's preference. And this is the video, small video. After surgery, you can see the good correction and no Marcus-Gunn phenomena. This is a case of mechanical ptosis due to neurofibromatosis, and we did it debulking and ptosis corrected. Myasthenia gravis is also a challenge. We have to do some diagnostics tests before we go for surgery or we go for management. The eyes test, sleep test, we do eyes test for all ptosis patients, and adrophonium test, we don't do it. But neostigmine test, we always perform neostigmine test. Single fiber EMG is not available, and we don't do routinely. A laboratory test, we do serum anti-ACH receptor antibody test, and we don't do neostigmine test. The question is why? We have found that in earlier we used to do eyes test and neostigmine test, and we saw that the specificity and sensitivity is same. So we only do the eyes test, and if eyes test is positive, in those cases we do serum anti-ACH acetylcholine receptor antibody test. And this is before eyes test and after eyes test. And the treatment is oral pyridostigmine like mestinon, and it is the treatment of choice. Sometimes immunosuppression with steroid is needed, and thymectomy is needed. So we have to do in myasthenia patient the CT thorax. And this is a picture. This is a Maulana Maulavi, and you can see that he had ptosis, and he has so gloomy and sad face. But after the ptosis correction, his face has changed. This is what we want to see in our patient's face. These are the cases. Oh, I must say, in my earlier days when I was not doing good in LPS resection, but I had to do surgery in patients with ptosis. So tucking procedure I used to do, LPS advancement. It is a very easy surgery, and anyone can perform it. No need of excision, and not much expertise is needed, and very short learning curve. So these are the my early cases, and you can see the tucking. The result is good. So in conclusion, I want to say each and every case of ptosis is unique, and outcome of management depends on good understanding and proper evaluation of ptosis. You have to know the pathogenesis and what type of ptosis it is, and then proper evaluation, and then go for management. And counseling is important for realistic expectation of the ptosis patient, because if the patient wants to be a Salman Khan or an Aishwarya Rai, they can't be. They have to know that you are you, and we can just make you better looking, can't make you Salman Khan or Aishwarya Rai. That is the conclusion, I must say. Thank you all for your patience hearing. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Shaukat. And yeah. Sometimes to use proline creates granuloma, but in your hand, if it works very well, that's good. But what you said that you have to put 8-10 knots in proline rather than if you can just cauterize the cut end of suture, that will serve the purpose after 2 knots also.
My experience is, if, thank God I don't have to do the revision surgeries, but if we need to do revision surgery, we need to have a long proline. Otherwise, if I do a few knots and then cauterize, there will be no proline left. So for revision surgery, it will not be good. We have to do whole procedure. But if you have long thread, long suture, then you can just open it and then tie. Then do re-knotting. That's the. I know, but it is not available and the patients can't afford. That's the thing.
Do you anchor the knots into the muscle or something so that it does not extrude?
What I do, the knots I take here after knotting, I take from the underneath the skin pocket, I bring out the knots in the, and then I cut it. So it goes inside and there is no granuloma formation.
So